Yes, Mayor.
Okay. Tell me when we're ready.
There you go.
I'm ready to.
Okay, great. Thank you. So welcome, everybody. Today is Tuesday, October 1st. Can you believe it? October 1st, 2024. This is the Cottonwood Heights City Council work session. My name is Mike Wickard. I'm the mayor of Cottonwood Heights. We're going to start our meeting today with item number 2, which is a review of our business meeting agenda. So we'll begin like always with the Pledge of Allegiance. Maria, would you mind leading us in that tonight?
No, not leaving. You're talking about Pledge of Allegiance. It was my turn, but you can go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are initiating you quickly.
Yes,
So, yeah,
I
perfect.
apologize.
No,
Keep going.
that's okay.
Every day.
Thank you. Item number 3 for tonight is our landscape beautification awards that we all had a hand in awarding the winners in our district. So we will, Mike, you'll kind of lead that, I guess, right?
Yeah, I'll just, maybe what I'll do this year, so I don't have to sit up and come up a million times. I'll introduce the program and go through the winners of each district, and then in order, give the council some time to say a few words and take pictures and hand out certificates. And I'll give you all those once we get in there to hand out as we get to.
So we'll let you get all the way through.
So I'll go through all 5 winners and then turn it back over to you to add to that. Perfect.
Great. And then item number 4 on our agenda is actually titled bond arguments, and that's how it has to be. So Scott, I'm gonna let you kind of let us know how we're gonna go about this. So you're gonna come up and read the 4 argument, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, we did not have any against arguments filed. So what we will do after Scott reads his 4, is there a better way to say that?
No.
No?
Yeah. Confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so as you come up and read the argument for passing the bond, we'll then actually go to allow comments. So it's not an official public hearing, but we are going to allow comments specific to the bond. And so Maria, like always, because we'll have 2 different comment periods, we'll have them specify if they want to talk specific to the bond. And then anything else, Scott, you want to add? Do you want to go through what you're going to say, or?
I'm really just gonna read the memo that I sent out that basically says that it's a legally required item that we the council really is legally required to do a 4 argument, if you will. And then no one submitted a legally binding against argument, if you will, by the time that the deadlines were. That doesn't mean that there can't be some, they're just not, that way titled under how the statute reads. And then I'll read the actual 4 statement, and then after that, we'll go to the next item that's on there, which we'll talk about now. That's all I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna do anything other than that.
Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, perfect. We'll have a regular citizen comment period, and then we'll move on to our action items. The first being 6.1, consideration of ordinance 422, amending chapter 9.05 Cottonwood Heights Code of Ordinances regarding nuisances. So Shane, you want to give us a?
Sure, I'm happy to explain this. About a year ago, the Utah legislature significantly revamped their portion of the Utah code that deals with the city's right to inspect and require cleaning of properties. And so I prepared an ordinance a month or 2 ago that made quite a few changes to to our chapter 9.05 of the city code regarding nuisances and abatement of nuisances. And I decided to do another cold review a week or two ago, and going through it, I thought, well, we could do a few more tweaks. And so that's what this is just some minor cleanup items to chapter 9.05 concerning nuisances and abatement.
Perfect. Any questions, comments from the council? Okay, great. Thank you, Shane. Then we'll move to item 6.2, consideration of resolution 2024-65, approving entry into an interlocal cooperation agreement with UDOT Department of Transportation for traffic enforcement. And this is related to the grant. Well, do we call it a grant, Chief, that we got from UDOT to help
Use the service.
enforce traffic on Wasatch Boulevard during the ski season?
Can I point out, we have a spelling error
Yes.
on 6.2. We have traction instead of traffic laws.
Is that on the agenda or is that in?
It's on in the action items, yeah.
Well, it's like,
Is
so
it traction?
it is traction
It is
actually for
traction.
the winter as well. It's specific.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, traction laws.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna be doing is, Chief, do you wanna go over this? So we've agreed with you, Doug, that on snow, days where it's snowing and, you know, we get the alerts that you can't go into the canyons without chains or approved traction. So this is gonna be the first year that that's going to be enforced. We will be turning, and we will be helping in Big Conley Canyon to turn cars around. Chief, do you wanna, what do you want, anything? you
No,
wanna add to that?
you're right on it. So there's 400,000 we play. We get 180, Sandy gets 180, the sheriff gets the remaining 40,000. She's gonna use that for overtime to staff the canyons. Sandy and us will use it primarily on snow days or traction days where, you know, where we are gonna be publicizing a sticker program. So if you've been pre-approved and checked, your vehicle has a sticker on it, which they've implemented several years ago. And the citizens have asked us to, you know, bring that back because it enables us to just wave you through and get traffic moving up the canyon because you've already been vetted. If you don't have the sticker, then our officers will be trained and prepared. We have snow gear. We'll have a little portable tent. We will pull you up, check your tires, make sure you have the right, you know, the all-wheel drive or the chains or whatever you need to get you safe at the canyon, because we don't want you up the canyons and turn sideways and, you know, create a hazard or, you know, problem traversing the canyon. So if you aren't properly prepared, we will turn you around. We're also working with the rental car agencies to make sure that people that book a vacation don't come here and spend a lot of money on flights and hotels and then get a two-wheel drive rental car. I think they're gonna come, you know, up the canyons and be disappointed to no fault of their own.
So will the rental car agencies be able to put their cars through the decal program as a private citizen would?
They can.
Yes, they've actually, every one of them already been made aware that if they want to rent cars to go up the canyons during snow days, that they will need a sticker. So they are part of the awareness that's already happened.
And do we have a plan in place to communicate this to our
I was
residents?
just gonna say,
Yeah.
so we are working with UDOT. UDOT has a communication program. They put together some kind of,
Some
to be honest with you, dorky commercials that I thought, you know, that could have been, is anybody from UDOT here? No, these are amazing commercials.
Amazingly dorky.
There's a couple of them that, and our police officers were in a couple of them. But anyway, so yes, so there's a campaign. We're gonna blast it on our social media. They're gonna do the same. And we think, you know, there will be a learning curve in the first couple of weeks as if it's a snow day and the people go up and they have to turn around, they'll go get new tires and get a sticker so they
Well,
don't have to worry.
I would like to maybe know who at UDOT is our point person and make sure they have the history of the last several years. Because there has been a problem going to get the decal from the places that are listed as dispensing them. Oh, we don't have any decals left. I know that happened to us and to anecdotally it happened. So maybe taking into account that it didn't work real well the last time it was implemented, there's ways to avoid, because it was early December when we applied for decal and weren't able to get one. So I'm just
You can
thinking.
let me
that-
know, I'm not in charge of it, but Bree, I think that Bree Bit Booze.
Oh, right,
Yeah, so she's working on it pretty heavily. So
Oh.
if you let me know, I can pass it.
yeah.
For sure if there's any issues.
We're also working with our vendors in the city who aren't already on the list to get them on the list so I can turn them around to Hillside or Big O and get them.
Every
In
tire
compliance.
shop, I think, has been notified and can have stickers. The ski resorts are gonna have stickers. So from everything that I understand, we should have enough this year. So if we don't, I don't know, we'll talk to, UDOT's in charge of that.
It's a good program and we're grateful for the cooperation with UDOT and Sandy and the sheriff's office. So, we'll proceed. Are there any questions?
So
Is
this,
it enough?
I'm sorry.
Is the 180 enough?
No, ma'am, it should have been $1 million. But Carlos, he's always going tight on me, so.
the good news, Suzanne, is, the amount that UDOT was given through the legislature is actually tied to a percentage, and so it's actually gonna go up every year. We'll see how much, but, so I think that should increase every year a little bit.
So you have some reporting requirements and I mean, that's all
We
I
do
would,
here, yeah.
that's all I would ask is that hopefully those reporting requirements will be able to help you determine if you're really getting your reimbursement that you need.
Yeah, so again, we already invested in some specialized equipment for those officers who are gonna be standing out there, and we have to have a couple, because it's a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
To be standing out in the roadway on those deals, so, but we'll have tents and we'll be able to, record how many cars had stickers, how many went through, how many we inspected, how many we turned around, so we can appropriately, report back to you. But I have to send props out to Carlos and the mayor and Senator Cullimore actually sponsored the legislation that got us the money from the legislature, because last year, remember, it was, I wonder if we can move this to here, and then there were some bumps. And so they just went around that and actually got money allocated to us. So thank you for that.
And of course, that's why we were able to justify adding those additional traffic officers late last year with, foreseeing that this was coming down the pike, some money to cover
Well,
additional.
yeah, you could understand my argument is that we shouldn't subsidize the rest of the county with our police officers' time. We should be duly reimbursed.
So you're looking for reporting not only that I'm reimbursable, so
How
related
many
to how
hours
many
we spend
officer
and what
hours
we're
are spent.
spending, and without making it too laborious. Yes, I would
Yeah.
advocate for that.
I noticed in the language they refer to it as Leo hours or something like
Well, Leo means law enforcement officer.
right, so
Yeah.
will it be more than one officer on those mornings of
Oh,
ours?
yeah, we will use all 4 traffic teams,
Right.
and then Sandy has theirs, and then the sheriff will have whatever she has left.
We're not foreseeing needing overtime because of the hiring of that traffic team. So, right, chief, did I
Right.
misspeak?
Correct, we are just
Yeah.
gonna adjust their schedule, so there won't be a financial impact to the city. We'll just adjust their time, and they know that. Because they're expected to work on snow days. That was really one of their primary objectives of formulating that unit, and on avalanche days, keeping them off, keeping Wasatch open, keeping the traffic out of the neighborhoods, that kind of thing. So we'll be ready.
I don't know if now is the appropriate time, or maybe when UDOT gives a presentation about the mouth of Big Cotton Canyon, but where will these officers be stationed to do at what point will the cars that don't have the decals be pulled over? Is it when they've already turned up into the canyon, or,
Yeah,
so how will they get?
There'll be a
permitted to
left
come-
hand turn into
Yeah,
the
well-
parking lot to pull them out and send them back.
Oh,
that's
okay.
exactly right. Yeah,
And the same at Little Cottonwood Canyon, they'll pull off. in the
Sandy's gonna
parking
be in
lot?
charge of that, of
Oh,
Little
that one,
Cottonwood
okay.
Canyon. And I don't know exactly where they're gonna do that, do you, chief?
I don't.
Yeah.
For
They've
the-
been doing it at the trailhead the last few years, but that's their plan still.
Anyway, so this is just the interlocal cooperation agreement with UDOT, and we're appreciative, super appreciative. Tell your boss, Devin, of this, even with the cool commercial. Yeah, there we go. So,
Turn on a dime.
the next item, 6.3, consideration of resolution 2024-66, approving and ratifying the appointment of a city recorder. So you all know that we haven't, Maria's been filling in admirably in both roles for the last, has it been a month now? How long has it been?
September 13th.
September 13th, okay.
5 PM.
A few hours, okay.
22 seconds.
So actually, Jared, I'll let you give some background on where we are on this resolution.
Yeah, so hopefully you saw my email that I sent out yesterday. We did interviews last week for that position, subsequently made an offer, it was accepted, and she would like to have that ratified tonight, so
Everything's kind of wrapped up, but the start date won't be till November. She will be joining us tonight, so you'll have a chance to meet her and ask questions.
Great.
Get to know her a little bit.
Questions, comments? Okay. And then we will be approving a consent calendar consisting of the minutes from our city council work session and business meeting for September 10th. Okay, so we'll still be a meeting behind, right? So we don't have them for the 17th, correct? Okay.
No problem.
We'll need them for
Pretty quick.
bond reporting pretty quick here, yeah.
Can we do draft minutes for that?
I
Find
think
out.
they have to be approved for that, but I think we can get them back pretty quickly. We can find out.
Thank you. Back to item now, number 3 on our agenda is our staff reports, and we will start with item A, and our Community and Economic Development Director, Mike Johnson, is going to give us a bond calendar update for where we are and what we have scheduled to happen before the election.
Thanks, Mayor.
Mike.
Yeah, I'll be quick. This is just the memo that was sent out in the council packet, just to touch on a few of the upcoming deadlines. Distribution of the voter information pamphlet, which was attached to this and also sent out in your council communications memo last week. That's been designed and reviewed by the internal kind of the legal team and everyone to make sure it complies with all of the voter information pamphlet requirements. There's some pretty strict requirements for the language in there and what needs to be in there, election polling information and, financial impact statements and ballot language and all that stuff. So it's pretty rigid, but that's been designed, sent to the printer. That will be mailed to every door in the city, probably by early next week. So that's at the printer right now. I think it's finished printing and is just being prepped for mailing. That has also been distributed in all of the other places it needs to. We've got the publication of the for argument or the statement in favor of the bond. Again, another statutory requirement. The mayor and the city council issue that statement. Scott will be reading that into the record tonight and we'll take public comment on it. That's also sent to the lieutenant governor's office, posted in the city newsletter and on the city website by October 4th. So we're right on track for that as well. Public comment tonight, we talked about that. And then next we've got the mayor's town hall meeting and Councilmember Burrell's town hall meeting on the 8th and the 10th. Those are not obviously required, but more educational in nature. Along the same lines, the educational yard signs, social media posts, and then I think a billboard design that just say, hey, learn more about the project at this website. Again, with the goal to just get people familiar with what the project is when they get their ballot. Those should all be hitting in the next couple of weeks.
The committee is also doing public neighborhood type cottage meetings as well with neighborhoods. I don't know if you had that listed on that.
Yeah, so they've been doing it, and at this point, especially since some of them as private residents have started a campaign that's not educational, it's persuasive in nature. We've just advised them to just act as residents as they hold those meetings and go about that, and we're all on the same page there. Again, as a reminder, the city's role in this from now until election day with city resources and time and staff and everything is purely educational. So we're making sure we keep a clear line between the two. And then residents, private residents can message that however they want. Just a few other, there's a bunch of legal, posting deadlines and noticing, which we're tracking. We've got like 4 different attorneys helping us make sure we meet all these deadlines and dates. So we're on track for that. But really, we are at the point now where when the pamphlets go out, the town hall meetings happen. Then we're getting into, October 15th, which is when the ballots are mailed out. And, it's just out there. We're here to answer questions. We get a couple emails probably a day, just asking questions about the project, and we direct them to the website and answer those questions. And then we're just kind of leading that up to election day. Any questions on this?
No, thank you for everything you're doing. I actually work with, and then my day job, Iron County is trying to issue a $20 million bond, and they missed reporting deadline of something and had to push their bond back because of that single item, 30 days.
It's a lot. And
So-
there's one state law that says one thing and another one that says another, and they don't gel, so we're trying to do it all. I think
Making sure you're following everyone. else.
and
We're
the team's
appreciative.
been great at keeping us on track, so that's the goal.
Yep. Any other questions for Mike? Okay, thanks, Mike. So the next item on our agenda is the sister city update with Incheon Yonsugu District and Cottonwood Heights. So most of you know, Matt and I traveled to Yonsugu this past week, where we signed a letter of intent for a friendly exchange with the Yonsugu District, Incheon. Yeah, what that means, why it's even termed like that, is that's what their statutory requirements require to get to the sister city agreement in 12 months later. Is that right, Matt? Did I say anything wrong?
Well, so they said that the mayor said that he was planning on coming here with a delegation of folks in May of this next year to do the final kind of signing of
Okay.
making it from a friendship to a sister city, and wants to do that final step here at our city hall, which would be kind of neat. Obviously, there's more discussions to come about that, but it was
So, and I'll let you add wherever you want, but it was an unbelievable experience. They treated us like royalty. I mean, they and actually, Maria, I did a quick little slideshow, but when I say slideshow, just some pictures, but we walked into their city hall, and the first thing we saw on this just massive video board,
huge screen.
50 feet by 20, as soon as you walk into their city hall, that's what you see in this big lobby area, was our logo, Cottonwood Heights, that then scrolled through pictures of our city hall, Brighton High School, our Butlerville Day celebration, the drone show. I mean, it was
Mountain View Park,
Mountain View Park, and they did
the
this 100%
canyons,
on their own.
the
So
rec center.
yeah. So here is, this was directly after, so in this picture is myself and Matt. Next to Matt is the mayor, Mayor Lee. I'm not gonna say his first name, Matt, unless you want to.
Oh, it's
No,
great.
okay. And then to the left of the mayor is
Councilman Park.
Councilman Park.
He's younger, got 20, I think 28 years old, kind of an up and comer in politics there. He's also a alumni of the University of Utah. So the University of Utah has a campus in this city, which there's a lot of connections of why we chose the city, but the University of Utah has a campus there, and it's been super interesting. If you graduate from that campus or here in Utah, there's no distinction on transcripts. There's no different diploma. It is a University of Utah diploma. And there's a lot of these there's hundreds and hundreds of Koreans in this city that are U of U alumni that have never even stepped foot in this city. And so when they saw this delegation over there, and you had the governor, you had the Senate president, you had Senator Colomore, who represents this area, you had folks, I think, from the Black Chamber, is that correct? And you had other, the Korean American Chamber from Utah, the Korean Federation of Utah, this incredible delegation of Utahns. There were probably total from the U side, us and Trade Mission, at least 100 Utahns that were there during that trip. And this was kind of a first introduction of Utahns to that scale of these hundreds of Koreans that are alumni of our local university, which is really interesting.
Our former mayor, Kevin Colmore, who represents Bio Utah. So the medical community in Yonsugu is huge, and it's a huge important focus of theirs.
Samsung Biologics is headquartered in this city. It's their global headquarters for everything Samsung Life Sciences, which is massive.
So he was there on the state delegation. He was with the governor and all the Senate president. And so it was just a matter of circumstance that he was there. We invited him to come to our signing ceremony, which was fun to have him there as well.
As a
But
former.
so yeah, why don't you go to the next slide, Maria, and we'll see. So there's the video board. And I told them during my remarks to both delegations that it almost brought a tear to our eyes. We walked into this big massive building, and this was what we saw. We saw a little slice of home and just to see that the work that they had done and the importance that they showed us that this was to them was just awesome. And, why don't you go to the next one, Maria?
The little dog behind you is very Korean.
Very,
awesome.
very much so.
Yeah, so this is some of both of the delegations, you can see, you know, the Korean Chamber of Commerce is represented from Utah. Colmore is myself and
Korean
Matt.
Federation
Yeah.
of Utah.
Mark Peterson, do you know his role again? So
Yeah, so he's a Utahn who speaks Korean and he's got I think he's got, I don't know, a couple 100,000 followers on YouTube. And he's a Utahn who on YouTube is trying to tell the Korean story and the Utah story and kind of bringing those two sides through stories. One of the things that he's doing a fundraiser on to try to do a documentary is they call it the Miracle at Gapyeong, and so this city, Incheon, is where General MacArthur and all of the Americans, that's where they landed during the Korean War. So North Korea and Communist China took over basically the entire country, except for a small portion. They decided to come to this city that we're partnering with. And during this war, there were a couple hundred soldiers from Cedar City, Utah, that were deployed. They call it a miracle, and the Korean government has built a monument specifically for these soldiers from Cedar City because they were surrounded by 4,000 North Korean and Chinese soldiers, and they defeated them and didn't lose a single life. Not one person died from the U.S. Cedar City contingency. And so there's some reverence from the Korean people on just how grateful they are to the Americans who, right there in the city that we're in, Utahns and Americans shed blood for this nation right there. And it was very moving.
at every event that we went to, we were in multiple events. They talk about General MacArthur and they love, you know, they exist because of what we did in the Korean War. And they recognize that. And it was just awesome to feel that from them, how appreciative they are of the American people. So it was awesome. The bunch of their people are in this picture as well. That banner they created and hung in their council chambers, which was great.
So most of the people that you see there in that picture are the head of tourism, the head of education. This is a 425,000 population city. So they've got, you know, people that run education. They've got significant departments there. They're planning, Mike, I think you'd be giddy to see the way that they've built this city. So it's a city called Songdo. And what they do in Korea is they need to make more space to build these high rises up in Seoul. So they'll literally take down an entire mountain and they'll take all of the dirt from that mountain. They'll haul it down. And what they did is they hauled it down and they went to the ocean and they just started creating land. And so this city that we visited is what, 15, the first kind of buildings were built there about 15 years ago. And the way that they've planned things and modernized things to kind of be a very, well, they called it a smart city, was pretty miraculous. I think you as a planner would be.
So from what I understand, 60% of the land mass of their city was created 20 years ago.
and he was a little freaked out.
Physics of thinking about that, but there's, you know, almost 1 million people living on that space now. It's actually just unbelievable. And it's a modern city. So they have parks that go through the entire middle of the city that never have to worry about an intersection. They're either under or over. And so, you know, anyway.
It also happened to land on about the day within 24 hours of when Delta announced that they're going to have a nonstop flight from Salt Lake City to this city.
Yeah.
So we're being connected even further. There's just so many synergies here. And when I walked into that city hall, I was not expecting, they were just kids playing at Mount View Park. And I started to get emotional. I don't know why. I mean, I think the reason why, honestly, is, you know, my mom, you know, they're actually building a home here. my mom's from South Korea, and she'd always tell me these stories of where she grew up, and seeing my dad's world projected on this screen in my mom's world was just an absolute overwhelming experience. It was very special.
So let's go to the next one, and this will be, so Matt and I,
I don't know you're gonna share.
one of the events that we went to, with the mayor of Vinchon's wife, was there. They wanted to teach us how to make kimchi, which is a famous, obviously Korean dish. We sat in a tea circle. They actually made these
Hanboks.
hanboks for us specifically. They actually asked for our size beforehand. And these
We
are
didn't get
what their
kicked off.
kings wear. They made Matt and I wear a crown for some of the pictures. But we learned how to dye silk. It was just, anyway, it was really, really cool, the effort that they put into us being there. And this was actually part of the U of U delegation. The University of Utah president Taylor Randall and the Asian campus were so incredibly kind to us. They involved us in everything. They announced who we were at everything that we went to. Taylor Randall actually brought me up on stage at the gala with 600 people, and I'm still not going to give him, I'm still a little bit mad at him about, but the next picture you're going to see, I kind of got him back. So I included
But
this
real quick,
picture.
before you go to the next photo, the
Yeah.
interesting thing about them sharing their culture with us is they would say, thousands of years ago, we would, and we're like thousands of years ago, the culture and the history there and the deep roots are pretty miraculous. So
Yeah, you can go to the next one. So they kept making me take pictures like this, knowing that I was obviously a cougar. And so they kept doing that. So I asked President Rand, I said, hey, would you take one doing the Y sign? So he did. You can see his face, and he
The hang loose sign.
yeah, saying, hey, loose, that's funny.
I told him as I started showing up on social media doing the block view on the University of Utah, that I needed a picture to counteract that with. So that's the president of the University of Utah doing the Y sign.
And at this event, you had
Goalpost uprights, aren't they?
the CEO of Lotte, which Suzanne, you probably have seen Lotte because you've been to Korea, but some of the largest movers and shakers were at this gala. And the reason why that's important is they're all thinking about Utah. The governor actually went and met with the president of South Korea and had a one-on-one sit down as well. So Utah, if there was ever a week in South Korea where Utah was on everyone's mind, they also, I just got a message that our visit in South Korea has made some of their news outlets and, Cottonwood Heights, everyone's looking up and Googling what's Cottonwood Heights, Utah. And that's part of why we thought this was special.
Matt's had other cities reach out to him and say, hey, can you help us get to some type of relationship?
And I said, I can't hear you. My phone's breaking.
Sorry. Anyway, we think this has been really positive and has the ability. So one of the things that I mentioned in my remarks during the signing ceremony was that they were not interested in just having a sister city relationship in name only. They really want to develop business business relationships, and allowing
Education.
businesses, education, even municipality type cooperation. So to us, we think it's going to end up as a really valuable resource and something that will bring Cottonwood Heights, recognition and name recognition. So anyway,
The last thing I'll say with that is when they come here this next year, they made it very clear that they would love feedback. And this is something from all the council members on what exactly you want to see out of this relationship and how it can bring value. And so that's something that will be more formalized over the months to come as we sign that final agreement and what that's going to entail and the commitments that we make. So we should probably have a discussion about that at a future date.
yeah, sounds great. Any questions? Over to you guys. Okay, great. Thank you. Item C is the East Jordan Canal feasibility study report. So Mike, we're going to turn it back to you and let you go over this report for us.
Perfect, thanks. So we have just finalized our East Jordan Canal feasibility study. Want to take some time and go through that with the council. It's not a master plan. It's just a study, so it doesn't require a formal vote or anything like that or implementation, but it's just meant to inform future council discussions on priority projects, grant projects, things like that. So just a quick background, the existing East Jordan Canal Trail was finished in about 2019. And that's a trail along the portion of the East Jordan Canal. And this is right off Fort Union, right behind Mountain View Park. Kind of orient you here. The existing trail has been developed basically from the intersection of Park Center Drive and Fort Union. On the north side there is where that trail starts. And it's paved and continuous basically to the back, that back corner of Mount View Park. That coincides with the portion of the actual canal that has been piped and underground for a number of years. So we got grants a handful of years back to be able to pave a trail on that portion of it. But then it just stops there. There's a fence where the canal daylights and continues on all the way up almost to Highland Drive and then goes right across I-215 up into Murray and Holiday. In 2023, so not this past council retreat, but 2 retreats ago, this was one of the projects that was brought forward. I believe it came as a recommendation from the Parks, Trails and Open Space Committee for the council to consider. The direction coming out of that retreat was, hey, study the feasibility of it. We're not quite ready to jump in on implementing it and allocating funding for it, but let's study it to see what we'd be up against, what things we need to be aware of should we ever decide to pursue an extension project. Kind of fortuitously, Wasatch Front Regional Council, separate of all the other grants we typically apply for, reached out to us and said, hey, we have this extra pot of money kind of meant for outdoor trail, active transportation projects that they received. They received a donation from Intermountain Healthcare to fund grant projects to look at this kind of trail. So they just reached out to us kind of unsolicited and asked if we wanted money. So we said, yeah. And that's what's funded this feasibility study. The purpose of the study has been, pretty simple: analyze the potential expansion of the East Jordan Canal Trail, review that against existing master plans. So we look at the local impact of that, but also what regional connections that provides. Identify optimal alignment, and then conduct public outreach to see kind of what the neighborhood in the immediate vicinity of that feel about this project. So the findings, the findings seem simple, but I'll kind of walk through some of the different things that the project team looked at. The preferred future alignment based on all of those factors is, in fact, hey, it would be ideal if we could continue the trail along the open waterway, throughout the extent of that neighborhood, and then actually try to find a way to take that across I-215 and connect that up into Murray, up into Holiday. And we've looked at, the regional connections that provides.
Is that right where that trail is, where that park is in Holiday that leads by Cotton Bottom,
Where
right?
Big Cotton
That leads
Trail
up to that
starts.
trail?
Not quite, but
Okay.
there are regional plans in place that connect this to that.
Cause that'd be.
Yeah, so I'll show you that in a few slides of how
Okay.
this kind of all starts to connect. Right now, if you drive around this interchange, you'll see a little box that crosses the freeway.
Yeah.
And that's the actual canal that is piped and put in a box and crosses and then continues across 215. It lands in Murray and then I think it quickly diverts over into Holiday. So it's kind of this multi-city alignment. But based on the feasibility study and public input and master plans, that is the ideal alignment. Would be, fairly easy to build a trail along the existing waterway. It's a parcel. It's not part of private property. It's a property owned by Salt Lake City by public utilities, but it's not like an easement through residential backyards or anything like that. It's a fenced off separate parcel, which you're working with one entity rather than 100 different property
And
owners.
having walked that area, there's actually a decent amount of space that would be
Yeah.
perfect for something like this.
Yeah,
And because it's kind of, right now, it's just vegetation and an old canal, it ends up, I've called chief on this multiple times. You end up getting young kids that kind of hop the fence and want to go back there. And I found many apples that seem to have some burn mark in there. I'm not sure what they're using those for, but doing something and creating something like this where it's safe public access, I actually think
Yeah.
would be a benefit to those neighborhoods to make it a little safer.
So, yeah, and Salt Lake City is a huge partner in this. They are, reasonably concerned. They're, at least that division is a utility company. They have that water infrastructure. They're in charge of maintenance and, taking care of that. Introducing a public trail to that is a little outside their comfort zone. It was the same story, when we worked with them on the existing portion of the trail. But they were a big, partner, at least invited to meetings for this study. We walked the trail with them. We've heard their concerns. So,
This is public utilities.
yeah, fully acknowledging that we would need to continue to work with them on some sort of agreement.
These
between
kind of
the city
open
and them.
canals with paths along them are throughout Salt Lake County.
Yep.
So this is not something that is new
Correct,
and
yeah.
a big new danger. I
Right.
mean, the Murray Canal Trail is very successful. It's
Beautiful.
been there for a long time. And then on the west side, we could talk, picked watercress there
Yeah.
5 years ago. So
No,
I'm really
absolutely.
thrilled that this is advancing because
Yeah,
I think this is going to be great.
The Murray Canal Trail is the exact same situation we're looking at here. It's owned by Salt Lake City Public Utilities. Murray worked with them to establish an agreement to build it's like a compacted gravel trail along that, and it exists today. So there is precedent for this kind of project moving forward. Crossing the freeway would be a UDOT collaboration. We did meet with them. They do feel that it falls within their Utah Trail Network initiative for, statewide regional trail systems. So getting on their trail priority list and potentially being able to tap into some funding there could be an option. Because admittedly, the huge barrier, whether you cross on Highland Drive or over I-215, it's really complicated to get a trail north across that interchange for trail users in a way that feels safe. You're either on the bridge and the interchange with cars flying by you, or you're having to build separate infrastructure to cross the freeway somewhere else. While the final recommendation seems pretty straightforward of, just build the trail along the waterway, we did look at alternative options to create the same level of connectivity, but in ways where, we were diverting some of the trail infrastructure into some of those public streets in that neighborhood. So this is kind of hard to interpret, but the different colored lines were just different routes that we kind of played around with and tested and got feedback on of building some sort of on-street or grade separated trail infrastructure along the roads that are within that neighborhood there. Again, with the goal to connect over to Highland Drive, potentially north and then potentially south, as we've got some trail design projects already in the pipeline for Highland Drive itself. In those cases, we looked at, there are different options for on-street or off-street trail infrastructure. You can go a high comfort route and you're grade separating, you're physically separating bike lanes and trails from the roadway. You can go a low comfort route, which is, you're painting bike lane symbols on the roadway, bike shoulders, that kind of thing. This is just to demonstrate there are a lot of options fully in the city's control if there were a desire to pursue on-street
Can you go back one slide,
circulation.
Mike?
Yeah.
So is that purple east of Highland line? Is that possible to connect all the way up to the Big Cottonwood?
So possibly what we found, there was a desire to continue the trail, future trail connectivity east to the east end of the city. We tested that, but then we were also part of a Holiday City study where they worked with UDOT, got similar grant funding, I think, to do a feasibility study to put a trail in the I-215 corridor just on the north side of the freeway. So where this ended up is, hey, let's just piggyback on their effort. We don't necessarily need that trail on our side. If it's on the north side and we can cross I-215 here, then it dumps directly into Knutson Park down by Cotton Bottom, which connects directly into the Big Cottonwood Canyon Trail.
So wait,
Oh, sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
please,
Well, I was gonna say,
before you go.
Yeah.
If you followed the freeway, the freeway connects to the Big Cottonwood Trail without having to go over the freeway
Mhm.
or under to Knutson Park. I mean,
Mhm.
because you could actually, you wouldn't, if the crossing across the freeway ever became a barrier.
Yeah.
We could still go on the south
So-
side and get all the way to Big Cottonwood Trail.
Committee on Active Transportation, Brad Buswell, he's weighed in on this. And there's actually a really nifty potential to to bring this right through here, as opposed to carrying people all the way here to get back to the traffic light. So this to me is the potential for another neighborhood byway.
Yeah.
Because absolutely you want people to be able to get around on the south side, I-215. But in my opinion, the only really safe and comfortable place to bike ride and get across the 215, but again, walking and cycling is 2300 East. So doing something over here is so ideal for the population of people who live down here. For those of us that live way on the east side, we have the big Cottonwood Trail and we have 2300 East. But for all these people and these people who want to go north or west, they either have to way backtrack or get into this really awful experience. And unless the canal trail, you know, is completed and can get you through that commercial district.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that eastbound connection, you know, there's flexibility in that on how we pursue that. Holiday has an active study, but you're right, Councilmember Rell, getting to 2300 East. That also connects into that Holiday Trail alignment. So, you know, whether you hit it at Highland Drive or 23rd, you know, both, something that would be great for regional connectivity and unlocking
So
access.
Mike,
to these areas.
are you kind of putting this idea out there that there's the potential that we would connect into a trail that Holiday, they would pay for the connection?
Well, don't forget, there's all that state money, $45 million a year for these regional.
Yeah, so Holiday's trail alignment, it ends at Highland Drive and it connects all the way to Knutson Park. That's already on the Utah Trail Network project list. They would need to apply for that funding and prioritize that and move forward. Holiday had experienced, you know, they've desired to have some sort of active transportation connection in that area for a number of years, and they got a lot of pushback from the residential properties of cutting it too close to private residences. So this plan was them saying, well, let's see if we can put it on the actual I-215 right of way instead, and then we'll avoid all the private property issues. So where that project's already out there, you know, we thought there's an opportunity to connect into that. But that, again, would cross through 2300 East, and that's another opportunity for us to pick
You
up
could
on.
possibly still do both, right?
Yeah, this is just to show, hey, we were thinking about more than just the actual canal as we worked through this study to see, hey, you know, we want to take this somewhere, we want it to connect regionally.
Okay, so in the lower left corner there, it talks about crosswalk improvements, and that's on Fort Union.
Mhm.
How does this relate to like our hawk signal? Does that mean
I
that?
think that's
a-
what it is,
a
right, Mike?
Biker, oh,
It
I don't
could,
think it's-
it could. So this is just saying, hey, you know, Fort Union's there, you should figure out a way to cross people across that safely.
Isn't that where
it's
you
by
enter the
park.
Park Center Drive?
That location is, however, you know, if there were, you know, I know one of the project ideas was a hawk signal, you know, like there.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
You can divert, you know, there's access into Mount View Park and you certainly could make that connection there. as well.
trail all the way down to
Matt, isn't the hawk signal where the stairs are though? So can a biker use
Yeah,
that
there's a
hawk
trail right
signal?
there.
No, it's
No.
stairs, it's strictly stairs.
stairs in that location, yeah.
The stairs run
That
right.
connect to that
right
trail.
there. The only way to get down to the park is either with the cars coming this way or the stairs, because I've ridden down the grassy knoll on my e-bike. It's exciting.
There's a trail.
There's no trail
It's
there.
actually to the west.
But it's to the west, the
Yeah,
trail is not near the
Yeah.
park, it's over here.
So bikers are not gonna use the hawk signal. They're gonna have to go down further.
Well, they could use the hawk signal to cross and then go,
Yeah, you can cross it, if there's a hawk signal there, you can cross at that and then ride down to the east and go down the trail or
Are
go
we
down.
investing in two big crosswalks that could?
Well, no, so I will.
That's a
I
light
think that's what I'm
that-
asking.
yeah, it
Yeah.
probably should need to,
I
probably do need to figure that out.
This here is a signalized intersection. There's a
Right.
traffic light, so
There's already.
that'll stop
traffic
traffic. You can cross
Oh,
there.
that's right.
That's operational today. That, you know, it's
So that,
signalized.
yeah, that would never
That's
be
where
a
that
hawk,
hurt
that would
is.
always be a.
That's where the,
No,
the water
right
tank and the, yeah,
Park Center Drive, the
There's a Park
T,
Center Drive
the
here.
That-
T.
Okay,
Right
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
that building is like where,
So when you said, because when
GameStop
it
and-
says
and
Express
are.
crosswalk updates, what would you be doing there to make it better for the trail users?
I think you would just look at, you know, that could be something as simple as striping and, you know, just, you know, an enhanced crosswalk design to make that. feel a little
Maybe
more
you,
comfortable,
Do a raised crosswalk even there.
Yeah, there's different ideas. We did not get into that in great specificity, other than to say, hey, we do want this to be able to go southwest at some point, and there's challenges with
I
doing
think there
that
is
as
a
well.
desire for that to be able to access the commercial areas.
Yeah.
Because if you're riding the trail,
Yeah.
go and
So-
stay at our businesses and.
I don't know if you're
Have a
looking for
treat.
direction, Mike, but I think for me, the canal is kind of the no-brainer. I'm
Yeah.
sure that it's obviously more expensive, than using existing roads and putting some painted lines and things, but I just think if you were to pick between the two, the canal just seems like such a safer option,
Mhm.
and you're gonna continue to have, if you create those through that neighborhood, though it's nice, you're still gonna have complications with
Yeah.
neighbors and
No,
cars and other things that.
that's great. And that is the recommendation in the executive summary. It is, hey, that's, phase one should be, finish the trail along the canal. It's actually not, prohibitively expensive until you talk about crossing I-215 with some sort of bridge structure.
Which, yeah,
But this was a board from the open house, and you can see this, we invited all the neighbors in this entire neighborhood here. The idea of enhanced infrastructure throughout the neighborhood is mixed. That's the red, green dot kind of feedback thing. But expanding the trail along the corridor was almost unanimously, we got positive feedback on that across the board. So concern with adding even sidewalk for some of those neighbors, they don't want any sidewalk in that neighborhood, and it's about 50-50 when you talk to them. But a lot of support for actually, continuing that trail along the canal. There's just some precedent. This on the left is the Murray Canal Trail. The study looked at that and looked at what they did and kind of modeled.
Is that
some of the
gravel?
recommendations. Yeah, it is a crushed gravel material on that trail.
It's really a lovely change from all the asphalt to ride on that crushed gravel.
And again, we looked at this, I won't go into this, it's in the study, but we just looked at this as, hey, we have the central project area in that orange box, but we looked to the west in green, how can that connect, that way in the future? To the east in blue, how can we connect that way? And we pulled in, that's where, if you start to think of Holidays I-215 trail along 215, say it gets down to Highland Drive, the East Jordan Canal connects to that, and then Knutson Park connects directly into the Big Cottonwood Trail. The EIS comes along and builds the shared use path along Wasatch, and all of a sudden you've got this regional trail connection that goes from Little Cottonwood Canyon, all kind of loops
That's
around down to
amazing.
Target, on a separated pathway. So,
Amazing, yeah.
so next steps, this was presented to the PTOS committee last week. No formal adoption or approval is needed here. It's just supposed to be a guiding document for you to use as you consider priority projects at future retreats and priority setting discussions. But
so
happy to answer
Councilor
your
Burrow
questions.
mentioned all the grant money for these type of projects.
Mhm.
So what can we start applying for? Cause I would even love, if there's piggybacking on holidays, that's fine, but I love the south side following the road there as well.
Yeah, so if you wanted, East Jordan Canal Trail specifically, there's the Office of Outdoor Recreation has a trail fund. We use that to develop a Ferguson Park. Wasatch Front Regional Council will have probably some active transportation programs as well. There may be others out there. For like I-215 trails, that's probably more Utah Trail Network, state level projects, which could look at a pedestrian crossing and any other sort of I-215 right of way trail projects.
Doesn't when I was at the MOVE conference, I went to a session given by Outdoor Recreation, and it seemed to me there is an early October deadline coming up for a grant. And that's maybe something we should
That's
look into
apply.
right away, at least to get an LOI or something. They said it's rather simple. I haven't had the time to look into it,
Okay.
but I
And
know
who's that through?
through the state outdoor recreation, but as I understand, it, that's separate from Utah Trail System.
I'm aware of
Is that
some,
right, Devin?
I believe
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
I'm aware of some acquisition money through outdoor recreation. I don't know about trail projects. Usually they're, I can't remember what it's called. The active transportation funds where, building trails and parks and things like that is a springtime grant, but we can look at it. We didn't have previous direction to start pursuing this as an actual project, but
Well,
if
again,
that's what I'm hearing.
as the liaison of the PTOS committee, I will say that there are folks on that subcommittee on active transportation who will gladly, and they have actually in this calendar year, filled out grant applications. I mean, these are very capable people. So I would like to admonish, Mike's department to consider, using the resources we have on that subcommittee to assist, because staff, I know your staff has chock full agenda with all the things going on, and I'm just saying that I'm speaking for that subcommittee. They are very interested in doing whatever they can and actually filling out, you could just look it over to make sure they did a good job and advance it. But,
So I would fully support applying for everything we can to try to get connected to the Big Cottonwood Trail. And I think I see everybody kind of shaking their hands, they'd be in support of that as well. So yeah, let's try
yeah.
to get funding and get it done. Yeah,
Great.
great. Is that good?
That's all. Yeah, we'll
Okay.
post this on the city website.
for
We're
doing
just
that.
finalizing the draft. There's a few little typos and stuff, but this will be available for public to look at.
Awesome. On that line, Matt, just so you know, there is a CWC short-term projects. And I would love for us to apply for, you know, some of the limbs that have pushed up the Big Cottonwood Trail. You know where I'm talking about?
The limbs that go over the multi-use trail. Oh.
The root bottom.
You know, I think that could be a work session, conversation maybe for 5 or 10 minutes in an upcoming immediate meeting, because as I ride that a lot, there's, you know, my husband was in construction for a living, and he has some ideas that I think are very cost effective, and I'd love for the council to talk to our public works director and see what can be done, because I know we spent a lot of money on the other half of the trail, the westerly half of the trail, and the roots are pushing up, but there
Yeah.
could be ways, instead of re-asphalting, to tamp that down and to,
Thank you for that. No, I appreciate
because the
that.
O&M is critical to
Yeah.
people, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so CWC short-term projects, let's get. Anyway, if you'll look into
Yeah.
that, get that on your radar,
Yeah,
because
I
there's
love
some
that.
money there that we could get to.
That's
to do
Mayor,
that.
that's a great idea.
May I also ask, can I receive this study separate outside of the council packet so I can?
Yes,
Send it
so
to
we'll upload it to the city website and then I can just send that link
Okay.
around so you can
We can
just
find it.
download it right off that. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. That was productive. Item D, the Wasatch Boulevard at Fort Union intersection project. So so I'll turn the time over to you, Matt, right? But and that's what Devin, that's why you're here, right?
Yep, that's actually Becky and her team. I'm
Becky,
here for support.
so why don't one of you,
The questions I don't know.
why don't one of you introduce everybody who's here? Come on up to the table if you want. You can get recorded.
We do have a presentation.
Oh, yeah, great. Great.
Maria has our slide. We come in mass.
We love it.
We've
Come on.
organized a dance number.
There's enough seats, so come up on our own table.
We can stand around.
No,
too. I don't
come
know.
on.
You're not standing. Oh,
No,
sit.
we
We're
have
happy to-
Have you on the microphone.
Oh,
Pick you right on, so.
okay.
So Becky Stromness, you're the Public Works Director.
No.
Is that, no, sorry. You're the UDOT project manager.
Yeah, I'm Becky Stromness and I'm the UDOT project manager. And this project originated, I guess it was formalized back by the Transportation Commission, approved funding back earlier in the late springtime.
Okay.
And then once the commission approves projects, then they get handed off to a project manager. So I was assigned to the project.
Okay.
And so we are trying to get underway, and we've been spending the last few weeks going around visiting with the various stakeholders in the area. Adjacent, you guys are obviously one, Murray, we've got the water treatment plant. Just letting people know that we're trying to get underway with this project, just so everyone knows we're out there working on this. So here's a quick map of the area. I'm sure you're very familiar with the area. It's right
Will
here
you
in your
introduce your
city.
team real quick?
Yeah, I can do that now. So I'm Becky Stromness, and then we have Aubrey Benyon that's leading our public outreach effort, and then Nate Jones from Perkins Engineering. Aubrey's with DEA.
Nate's with who, did you say?
I'm with Perkins Engineering.
Oh, okay.
Engineering. So leading more of the design effort.
Okay.
The roadway design effort.
I was the project sponsor, so just got it through the commission and
Okay.
handed it off.
Great.
Devin Weir.
And Devin Weeder. So anyways, yeah, so we are looking at the intersection of Wasatch Boulevard and basically the mouth of the canyon there, Fort Union, Big Cottonwood Canyon, that intersection. I think as we're all very aware, the wintertime traffic can be very troublesome and difficult at times. And so we're trying to do, I don't want to say it's the short term, but hurry and implement something if we're able to, just to try and help alleviate and help that intersection have better efficiency, better safety. while some of these larger, bigger picture things are working themselves out. So this project, has two ideas, and these ideas kind of were formulated from some prior studies that were done. There was two places that have cited this. So this, I think, originally came from the Big Cottonwood Canyon Corridor study back several years ago. And there was two components to what they identified. One was we need to add dual left turn lanes for people heading up the canyon. And then kind of if you're gonna have dual lefts, you have to have receiving lanes for those. So then we need to look at how we can improve the merging as it's headed up the canyon. So this was identified, and then beyond that, the Central Wasatch Commission in their mobility action plan, they've also identified this project, these improvements there. So based on this past effort to get them identified, we're now to the point, we've got a funded project, we can actually start work on it. And so that's what we're just starting to look at this. These are, again, high-level conceptual ideas of what was identified. There's a lot of fact-finding engineering that has to be done to kind of like make sure and this is gonna work. How is it gonna work, and some of the challenges. So Nate is gonna maybe go a little bit deeper dive besides these figures of starting to see some lines.
So this is
Okay,
fine.
lines on a map.
One of the big points that we want to make clear is that what you're seeing here, and I see that Councilmember Burrell has some printed out images, but the layouts that you see here, they're not the final design by any means. We are very much
started yet.
Yeah, we're very much in just a data collection phase and understanding if what was presented in those initial studies really is what we want to build. Or did they miss something? Have things changed? So right now we're just in the data collection phase. Those two elements that Becky described are most likely going to follow through and end up in the project. The two left turn lanes.
Southbound to
Southbound
eastbound,
to eastbound, yeah.
southbound Wasatch to eastbound,
And
Big Cottonwood.
and then extending the two merge lanes enough to accommodate the additional flow from those two left turn lanes.
Can I ask you real quick, would you rather get through your presentation and have us hold questions for after, or do you want us to go while you're?
You might as well ask now.
Yeah, you might as
especially.
well ask now,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So if you have any, yeah. feel
Well,
free.
this is, we all know, I represent District 4, so it
Right,
seems
yep.
rather verbose. It's because this is really.
This is your
Your
district.
area.
This is it, yeah. And so obviously, we're excited to reduce the traffic congestion in those couple of hours, about 30 days out of 365 days in this area. But one of the ongoing challenges in recent years has been the growing danger for those who either walk or roll. As we know, the only place to get on a bus is over here. Anybody trying to get across this intersection, it's quite a gargantuan, it feels very ominous. So some of my interests are in understanding how this is interfacing with the proposed intermodal hub, which I understand will be located about midway in the southern
Gravel pit.
half of the gravel pit that is undeveloped to this point. So how this interfaces with the UTA buses, because I'm under the impression that the idea of bringing the UTA buses circumventing, having to go through the intersection is no longer a possibility. So maybe you could address that, and then I have another question.
I can kind of address, I can address it to the point that we are aware. of
We've heard that, right? So
Yes.
that's
Yeah,
one
I'm
thing.
sure you're
Yeah,
aware.
Yeah.
and so we will be coordinating with those projects and those studies so that what we do can accommodate what they're going to be.
We want to be like future compatible
Right.
with whatever might possibly be coming down the line. And then the other thing I heard you bring up, which yes, is very much is all of the other users that aren't in vehicles, right? Is it the people walking? Is it the people biking? We need to figure out how to best get them through that area. And it may be how it is today, or maybe it needs to be different.
Well, one of the
And so
growing
there's-
challenges that we all have is the many different users on our roadways. We have the performance bicyclists going, you know,
Yeah.
wherever they go.
And then the
fast.
recreational.
Then and
And the
additionally,
kids.
we have e-bikes.
Yeah.
So e-bikes travel at a different speed than the performance bicyclists, than the recreational, and certainly people walking and stroller or, you know, scootering and going. So an ongoing, you know, one of the things I've been advocating for is more neighborhood byways to try to keep certainly the recreational users off of this fast moving SR 10 and SR 190. People often say, those darn bicyclists, what are they doing on SR 190? Well, anybody that needs to go north on a bicycle, this is the way you go north along the east side of Salt Lake Valley. So, but one of my concerns is this lost mine shaft road coming down, which is, I don't know if you can pull up a different slide, but it
You have that
brings,
shown.
it brings anybody.
No, we don't. Sorry.
Avoid any recreationalists who are utilizing the east side and to the south, there is official bike lanes, I should say bike routes. But coming along here and dropping down, the challenge is then crossing to get over onto the Cottonwood Trail, which of course starts here. And I've been told, well, just hug this southerly edge and go kind of against traffic until you get over here and then cross. But
I would.
anybody.
Don't listen to that person.
So that's not, so I'm wondering what you have in mind as you think about how you're gonna bring the vehicles merging into one lane. How to get those who need to come across from Lost Mine Shaft onto the other side of the road, which at this point, preliminary point, I'm not seeing any kind of protected bike lane or even bike lane at all on the north side of SR 190 there.
Right, so those are the kind of things we will be looking at. We don't have the solutions to them right now. We're just identifying the issues and then solving the solutions. That's how preliminary or early we are in the project.
And I understand that likely 2025 would be used as a design year,
Yeah,
possible building
Yeah.
in 26 or 27. Is
Yep.
that, do I?
Yeah,
have?
and-
Have you been looking at our website that we
Yeah,
developed in the last
that's my
24
hope.
hours?
Well, we have so little time
Yeah.
for delivery. I'm just trying to get to some of.
I
the-
know, that's
So
great,
I'm
that's
not trying
great.
to usurp your.
No, you're,
But-
And so right now,
glad for it.
there is a trail, you'll see that is shown here, that they could take it down, but I'm not here to tell you what the solutions are, because we don't know what they are yet, right now.
But we would
gathering
love to be
information.
integrally involved as you
Yeah.
plan this because it is so complicated.
Yeah.
right?
And that's why we wanted to come this early in the project, so it didn't. We don't want to do this alone, and we don't want it to appear to any of your constituents. I know that the communication paths from constituents to their council members is going to be much more direct than calling the number on the hotline on the website. You know, they're going to call you before they call me. And so we want the city to be informed and involved so early in this project that you're aware of what we're doing and how early we are in
Thank
this,
you.
right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, we recognize that it's a delicate area and, you know, all of the delicacies and all of the feelings about it.
Complicated. This is
Yeah.
not an easy intersection by any means. This is
Yeah.
very, very difficult.
Mayor, I think
Very
we need a roundabout there.
spot. Oh, wow. Roundabout.
They're all going, no.
This is a little bit of a deviation from the normal, I feel like UDOT process, and I kind of put them in the situation, but I said, we have the funds. This needs to be done. Let's do it now, and we can work with the city through the design process rather than spending years coming up with the concepts and kind of rolling through it. So I said, this needs to be done and I have money. Let's do it. But then I want to look to you guys to say, because right now in the concepts, it says nothing about where people go to the north except for cars.
Right.
And I know there's not really plans right now, but if we can make it future compatible so we can get people from like that southerly trail
Or kind of
through
know
the
what
intersection.
point on that map we're trying to get people to, knowing it's gonna eventually connect onto something else,
Right,
right?
like when the gravel pit develops, like where should bikers go through that
The
intersection?
county owns that parking lot, right?
Murray owns.
Murray
that.
owns the
does.
parking lot.
Murray
Murray owns the
land.
corner on the southeast.
Yep,
UTA operates.
Murray's on the northwest.
Yeah.
Then you have Salt Lake City with their
There's some-
plant
yep.
and the kind of those properties and ponds back behind.
And then a historic 7-Eleven. It's historic. Okay,
I've never got back to you.
Oh,
It's not.
is it not? Maybe it's not.
It's not. on the national
Maybe it's not.
registry,
We're not
so-
that old. Yeah.
Councilmember Highland.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Back to cars.
Mhm.
You have two turn lanes going into the canyon. I am the car going northbound, trying to turn right. And that puts so much traffic from those two lanes into that canyon. I can't go anywhere. I can't get into that.
There's no room
intersection.
for you to even turn.
No, because you now have doubled the amount of cars going in. So it sounds like on certain, hey, yeah, sure, great. Where are the rest of the cars gonna go that are going east, or me that's going to be going north and trying to go east?
You've actually drilled right to the heart of the traffic congestion problem. It's those two lanes going up the canyon that are the pinch point of the funnel. And
Doesn't that
because
make
it's
it
up a
worse?
canyon, it will make it better. The further we can take those two lanes up the canyon, the better it gets, but it is a canyon and there's a lot of constraints in canyon. So we're not gonna be able to take it as far as what our models will probably say we should, but it will make it better. Just because you have the river on one side and the mountain on the other.
So I can see how two lanes would make it better going east, but I can't see how making two turn lanes going east is gonna make it better. If you still have one turn lane, so you have cars that can come in from going south and east and cars that can come in going north and east, and then you have two lanes. I'm not on board with two left turn lanes coming south.
As long as they can merge successfully
can't.
from 2 to 1, right?
But
And
part of
so
this
we'll-
project is
yeah.
increasing the amount of merge space on Big Cottonwood Canyon Road.
Oh, I
You're gonna
agree.
leave it
I
there.
trying-
agree with that. I
We're
hear
trying
you.
to stretch it.
I hear you, but
We are
how-
conducting
how-
traffic modeling to try and see
if
how
there's
well this
two
is gonna.
lanes, Those two turn lanes now are two lanes of cars. Where does my lane go?
Into one of those lanes. So
Yeah,
like
so-
left
But it
would
doesn't
on
go
a-
at the
like
same
a-
time.
A left arrow, left green
It doesn't
arrow.
go at all right now.
It
Right.
doesn't, and
It
it gets,
doesn't go-
we've heard
And
nightmares.
the U-turns and the crazy driving.
About how people are.
Since again, this is a
Yeah.
winter time, this is maybe 30 mornings out of the year. Devin, what you feeling that? But whatever it may be, 21 to 40 mornings out of 365. I think, since, let's say the people of northern Utah have weighed in and so want to see enhanced busing. How is UDOT, now that you are taking, and I don't just mean you at this table, but
Right.
since UDOT is taking over some of the UTA responsibilities, as I understand it, how are you envisioning that we can get more bodies out of their cars before they get to this pinch point and get them on buses so that the envious people in their private cars are watching, whoa, there's buses going by. I could have a seat on one of those buses.
So one of the original ideas, like when I was looking at this, I'm in charge of busing up and all the other stuff. So when I looked at this, I said, okay, great. I can help to solve the dual left turns while also looking at maybe there's some future widening that can be done with this bridge that we can do now that will accommodate a future bus lane. And so as part of this is looking at like, could there be a bus lane on this bridge that goes into that parking lot and totally avoids all the traffic? So it would come out of the gravel pit, go across the bridge into the parking lot and then merge with the traffic in the canyon.
We've had.
And would never,
Yeah,
yeah, and it would never enter.
100% would change.
So-
But I thought there was a sticking point with the
They
treatment
they
plant.
can't get too
So-
close to that, but I think there's other
Of
options.
this southern or this western edge, this is UDOT right away through here. And so we wouldn't go through the treatment plant, it would actually be an opposite running bus lane here.
So I was a little bit confused on these red arrows pointing.
Oh, sorry,
down.
so these are
Those are the
the
signal.
Traffic
heads.
lights.
so that's not, yeah, you can ignore that, that's just like how we show traffic signals, they're basically
They're
showing,
pointed out.
they're like saying the.
It's the heads.
The LEDs are pointing.
The red.
Oh, God.
I know, that is confusing.
Yeah, just for a minute, I thought, well.
It's not direction of vehicle travel necessarily.
Yeah, so that's part of this project to look at, since we don't want to widen a bridge twice, just looking at it, like, can we do all the widening now to allow for a future bus lane?
But I did bring this up because I want the council to understand too, that they're prioritizing citizens coming from other cities and not coming. In the way the traffic flows.
I would say like we are gonna do the traffic modeling,
Right.
like, so like, just because it's shown like this, doesn't mean that we're not going to make sure there's a protected right turn movement. Because that is I agree, I mean, it's a big problem if you end up coming from a direction, I would say almost eastbound traffic is the worst movement. Because right turns can sneak through, the left hands get it protected, and then you go straight and you never make it.
Thank you.
So it's definitely something we're looking at.
So if it's on your radar, that's great.
So I, in a way, I mean, when I studied this, and because I was holding some of the similar concerns to what Councilmember Highland just expressed. And so for those going northbound toward the intersection, it appears, is this horizontal stripe line, is that a concrete barrier that
We don't know
directs people
yet.
into a left turn lane?
We don't know any of those details. This is just what was
This
pulled
is a-
from the
You know what I mean?
concept.
This, I just.
So, yeah, in
Yeah,
the
in
concept
that,
report,
yes.
that's, I'm gonna speak so plainly and say that's like crayon or back of a napkin level drawing. And this project, now that we are just getting started, we'll take a look at, you know, a lot more of the geography of the road, what's under the road, what's the, you know, what does that dirt look like? What's the hillside look like? Where are our utilities? And those are the activities that are coming up next, that will inform the decisions that we make in the design. And so I would not hold too tightly to that drawing. That's a really great starting point, but it can change based on what is actually in the ground, on the ground, under the ground, in the area.
And we are aware of the maintenance project that came through and put in a curb in the bike lane. And so
Well, this has been
that'll be
ongoing for
addressed.
now many months, and I don't want that first serious cyclist accident to be, I mean, I don't understand why that cannot be immediately rectified. I know you have a slide that shows it. Can you please pull that up?
It's not in this presentation.
Well, you didn't bring it,
Yeah.
but one of the things that I am here to get a commitment from those of you in leadership at UDOT is we must have that cycle lane right now. Any cyclist, performance cyclist whose head is down and they're in a position and they're staying between the two cycle lanes is being driven right into a curb.
Yes.
This must change. It should have changed 6 months ago. Can I get your commitment? I don't know, as the project manager, this is a design project, but I don't know. Can we get a
It
commitment?
will be 100% be addressed with this project.
No,
I
no,
can't
that's
make,
years
so
away.
I can take it back to Region 2 and I can take it to Lisa.
We did
They're over
see
the
the email
operations.
thread that it has gone to Lisa Central at the region.
So what's
But I-
Lisa's last name?
It's on Bill. I can provide your contact.
Could you, because to me, I think that respectfully, people in leadership in the bicycle community have been approaching UDOT on this ever since April. And I have this documented thread, and I'm intervening as the council member here asking, we need this to be done yesterday.
Yeah.
And you don't want the blood on your hands. I certainly don't. I mean, you know, I'm not a performance cyclist, so I take my direction from those who are in leadership in the cycling community, and they think that this is a disaster waiting to happen. So if you could take that to Lisa, I would.
Yeah,
really
if I was
appreciate
in
it.
charge of it, I would.
Driven it. It actually is.
No,
It's
I
gotta be
agree.
taken care of.
And a lot of things
So
we
it sounds like we got a commitment from Devin to push that.
Yeah, I can definitely help you get in contact with Lisa.
Yeah, because I mean, I think it's just a striping issue. They're just asking that the striping is changed so that it doesn't lead a cyclist.
Because right now it's literally just
Into an abrupt.
the concrete median that they installed in the middle of the bike lane. That's.
Yeah, the bike lane is going, it starts being dotted
the
lines, but
Right,
it's
so
not.
and there's nothing
to run
like
into the
this,
curb.
right,
No.
moving away, yeah.
I think it was removing all we're looking for is removing the inner, so this more westerly dotted lines. So
Right.
that the cyclist realizes that has gone, you know,
They've gotta make
that's
a
gone
correction.
away and they either gonna get in the right-hand turn lane or they're gonna get in a share
striping
going to go north.
solution.
today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I know we're running out of time.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so really quick, right now, what we'll be doing is just our investigation surveying. That's what this is. We have our geotechnical engineers coordinating with the cities right now to go out and do some drilling so we can understand the soil conditions. Will be, like Aubrey is saying, identifying all the utilities underground, getting that topographical land survey, and doing our
And I
environmental
think
studies.
what is important, it was important for us to be here and talking about this project with you, because this is really visual work, right? A geotechnical drill rig is big and it looks daunting. And if constituents might, reach out, contact, ask what's going on. So we want you to be informed about the order of events and the sequencing of this project, in case folks reach out and,
Do you have a
and
picture of
if it
that rig?
appears not
What
in
was
this
that?
presentation, a picture of the drill rig.
Uh-huh.
It's
Big
really
rock.
tall, big
Really
truck with a
tall.
really tall.
It's gonna-
And it's gonna
looks
be
like it
up
drills.
quite a ways on the hillside.
Well,
That's what I was gonna ask, is where are you setting it up so they know when they get calls?
It's go on that, so on
We
that
can share
southeast
those
corner,
drawings
it's gonna
with
be
you.
way up on the top of that hillside.
Okay.
Not in the private property. It will be in either the city's property or Murray City's property, but it'll be visible.
Okay.
well, there may be an opportunity, I'll direct this to our new city manager. In our newsletter, constituents often tell me, couldn't there be like a one-page dedicated to updates? And projects that people are gonna notice around our city,
Mhm.
can we just dedicate a page to updates? Really beefy information, like if you
Yeah.
see a big rig to the east side of the mouth of the can, or,
Yeah,
I think that would be so tremendous, so maybe that can be a work session discussion
Yeah, we
going
can look at
forward.
that. Some of it we don't know in time for the newsletter to get it published and everything, or it might be done by the time the newsletter hits home. So we really do encourage people to follow us on social media, because that's where we can put that stuff and get it out there timely. I know not everybody uses it, but that's where we,
but if they want timely information, they
Right.
should.
That's true.
Okay,
Well,
Yeah,
And the email subscriptions, I
yeah.
tell people
email
all the time, on the email subscriptions.
We kind of already brushed on the schedule of, you were well aware of it. So yeah, we're in the fact finding now, into design through 25. And then any right of way purchases we need to make, and then into construction into 26 is our anticipated plan. We'll see how it goes. And then the last is just the contact information. And again, we know you guys get plenty of calls. We have a dedicated PI team, so don't feel bad about forwarding if you need to, but that's too much, just to make the load lighter for you.
Right.
Thank you.
And so you'll be leaving this in PowerPoint, that we can access. it.
you've got the PowerPoint.
I do. And then
Great.
Yeah.
I anticipate we'll be making several visits over the coming years. The project gets further underway and providing updates and you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well,
Yep,
thank
thank
you.
you.
Appreciate you
Thank you so
coming,
much.
taking the time and for the,
Appreciate it.
yeah, coming to us quickly. So thank you. We do expect you to stay. Oh, are you?
Mayor,
That's teasing, yeah.
this is a quick update. I know the concern on the striping on that. I got an email back from Robert, the director of Region 2 today, and he said they were on it and they would take care of it. So
Oh, super.
he and Lisa, who we talked about, plus the traffic engineer, plus the alternative transportation engineer, all have that. And
on there.
so it's on, I got that email back. I'll follow up on that.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. If you'll let us keep us in
Yes, I will.
updated as well. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you again. So item letter E, the utility easement discussion. So, Jared, do you want to start off with that, or are we going right to Matt?
No.
No, this was just brought up from a recent experience we had with a resident with some of the construction going on in utility easement. And so we wanted to go over and talk about what our responsibilities are, what we require, whether it's, and there's some differences between public and private easements, obviously. So we just kind of wanted to clarify and what the possible restitution and corrections are from our end, and where we have responsibility and where we really don't or can't get involved in the civil matters.
Okay.
If Matt's ready.
Sure, Matt's ready. So this question came up. Sorry, yeah, Matt's ready. I can do this. The question came up, as you know, we have a lot of subsurface utility going on around. One of the main providers that's doing the work right now is a company called CWH. Y'all have met with them before. They've come in and made their presentation. We've had, so they were issued, and through the process for working in the right of way, you have to have a franchise agreement to work within the right of way. CenterWave has that franchise agreement, or any utility who works in the city has that franchise agreement. The only ones who don't have one written up are really water, gas, and power. but they do, but they don't. I mean, obviously, they're the one provider and we have to have them. But as far as the communications and things of that nature, each one of these has a franchise agreement to work within the city right of way. And I'll keep using that term, the right of way, because what the right of way permit does not allow, it does not allow for us to give permission to work on private property. Unless there's an easement there, and those are typically within what's called a public utility easement, and those are defined on plats. So if there's a public utility easement on a plat, then they are allowed to work in there if it's identified as a public utility. So in other words, water can go in there, all of these different things. They
Per
set
state.
water meters, I'm sorry?
Per state code.
Yeah, per state code, and all those things can go in there. So, but when we issue a right-of-way permit, the permit is issued for work within the bounds of the city's right-of-way. And for these underground utilities, we have standards that go with it. Typically, they'll put them under the sidewalk or under the park strip. That's their best location because they don't disrupt property and they don't have to cut the road and tear the road up to work in it except for crossing. Now, when they get issued a right-of-way permit, per our code, they can't work unless they have the right-of-way permit. That's in our code to do that work. And I was looking up the code number and I apologize. There are some things that I got a little tied up on, but per our code. Now, our code just says you have to have the right-of-way permit, and it does also discuss you have to restore in kind or better condition, depending, if you can't. Really, it's always better condition, because once you dig up grass, you're putting in better sod. If you break any of the property owners, like for instance, sprinkler heads or anything of that nature, those things have to be replaced, and that is in there. Also, within our code, there's notification processes that says you need to notify. Now, in our right-of-way permit, when we issue the permit, in that permit, we require notification to residents if work is occurring in front of your home within 3 days before that work occurs. And that notification is not defined in the code, but in the permit, we've defined it, or we've given it a process that says you need to do a door hanger on each door that you're going in front of that home. So, or a mailbox. Now, the problem with the mailbox, some people don't like you touching their mailboxes.
It's a federal law.
Yeah, and I know some people don't care that you slip a flyer in, but we hang it on the doors, and that's where we put those flyers, and they'll get hung up. And that's 3 days in front of a home. So what they'll do when they blitz through, say, a neighborhood, they'll go through the whole neighborhood and they'll pick out their 3 days of work and they'll put the hangers up. That work can start 3 days after that. And on the flyer, we require contact information of the project, person on site, contact information of the company, description of the work, and estimated time to be on the job. So all of that information is provided. From that point, and then that's for residents. For businesses, we require that there's a 5-day notice. When you cut across or go in front of a business, obviously they have to do a little bit more to prepare if you're going to cut the driveway or anything of that nature. So that, and same thing, except on that one, we require that they actually meet face to face with someone in the business and hand them personally the flyer. They have to do that. And then the companies are also required to notify all emergency services. They call UFA. They contact the police, our police department. They also contact UTA as well as the school bus garage. If there's any changes to the roads, closures or anything of that nature, they're required, or road lane shifts or anything of that nature, they're required to make those notifications. So we have I feel like a somewhat robust notification. Now, following that up, there are occasions where a flyer gets picked up by somebody walking into a home And for my home, for example, I get flyers on my doors that I will grab and I don't even, I discard them as I'm walking through. And then another property owner who lives there might not get that notification and they're surprised that some work's going on out front. That happens. Also, it does happen on occasion where the flyer gets blown off or things happen of that. That will happen. Those are things we can't, we do our best to control, but that's kind of the nature of the beast. But we do require those notifications.
So this is all within public right of way.
This is all within public
So-
right of way. Now, when they're doing projects and you're doing work, oftentimes, and you'll see it around town, it's over on 1700 East, you'll see it, I mean, over here by Old Mill. When there's a property owner who is adjacent to a project, the contractor may notify that property owner, it happened up on Creek Road, and get permission to stage their equipment and materials on the property. That then becomes a private agreement between the contractor and the property owner for use of the property and any restoration that might be required to the property. Once again, we do not, within the right-of-way permit, give any permission to go onto private property, to store equipment, to store materials, or do anything of that nature. That has to be a private agreement. And when that occurs and there is no agreement, that falls on we do intervene in the fact that we put the two parties together and say, you know, you have to resolve this, but that's as far as we can really go in that regard. We do have requirements on that. If you are using that, you still have to follow the same cleaning, the same sweeping, the same SWIP program, the stormwater, all of those things that occur. So in a nutshell, that is how our program works when it comes to working within the city right of way and getting a city right of way permit. There's a little more nuances in some of these. If it's a private resident getting a right of way permit, we do or we don't charge depending on the type of work. But typically, if it's a resident applying, we don't charge for permitting. It's just a matter of letting us know you're out there doing the work and making sure we're following traffic control and things of that nature. Like I said, I know there was some questions and in particular, we have an agreement with CWH right now to provide a little more detail on their projects with contractors to have information at hand for those who are out there working. So those things occur as well. So
is it in our, may I just interject? I've been trying to ask this question over the time. So like Councilman Newell, I've not recently, but for about 18 months in my term, I've had a lot of problems. And one of the big challenges is that these notifications, usually the resident will say, no, I was never notified. But the other thing is that the crews that come out to work are often working without any identification on their vehicles themselves. Sometimes I don't know if they speak English or not. And so the resident tries to, who are you with? And they sometimes seem to act like they don't even know whether there was CenturyWave, Comcast, CenturyLink. Can we have it in our code that there's something on the vehicle or there's some way for a resident? Because I've wasted a lot of my own time and their time trying to figure out, I've called who, I should just call you, but.
No, that's a great question. And that does point something out. Well, first, let me explain one thing. Sometimes when you go out and you talk to the people out doing the work, it is true, they don't know who they're putting it in the ground for, because oftentimes they're subcontractors.
Yes.
So CenturyWave, I don't want to keep using CenturyWave, but let's just say that the main company, the mother company, will hire these subcontractors and they will hire 3 or 4 of them to do this work.
I understand why it is.
So the people on the site don't know that they're putting it in for this company A, B, or C. They just know that they work for this subcontractor and that's all they know. So one of the requirements we are now implementing, and this has come up and we've found success in this, that on the project site, there needs to be someone in charge who is able to communicate effectively, with the residents, or someone within that location. We also require them to have each employee out there should have a card, if you will, that has a name and a contact number that says, here's who you need to contact, who can communicate effectively what we're doing. So the company A, the main company, when they hire these subcontractors, give this information so that they're able to hand that out. We had a great deal of problem up on the East Bench when they first started with an individual company with that exact same problem.
So is this a written procedure that you're putting
Yeah,
in place?
it's in our,
Great.
yes, it's in our right-of-way policy that we're putting into place, and we've implemented that in this process. And I haven't talked the question you have about the truck identifier. That's a great recommendation. I've seen it before and I didn't even cross my mind until you just said it. We will start implementing that as well, where they can have just a sticker on the truck that says so-and-so doing business for Centaway or Comcast or anybody of that nature, so that it is written on the truck and that they are wearing identifiers that they have that. So yes, that's a great suggestion.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that. But so overall, that's our process on the right of way. We do, like I said, individually, there are some problems that arise and we take care of them as they come up. But overall, with the number of miles and feet that people are putting in the ground, I feel like we've got a pretty effective program. So there you go, Mayor.
Okay. Well,
Any questions?
you two could have said it was me, so.
I'm not gonna say
I'd have been
that.
all right with that, but,
Wasn't this your agenda item?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought.
So I appreciate that. One of the things I'd like to do also is be able to find a way, effective way to push out this type of information to residents, because they just don't know. And they start blowing up the phones saying, asking questions, and we don't know because there's no identification. So I think, having them have some sort of identification on their vehicles, someone there that can, or everybody has a card that says, I may not understand this language, but here's who I'm working for. But as a city, I think we should have something, even if it's maybe even in a journal, just monthly saying, hey, be aware of this code or this policy in the city. So when you see people working, know that these are the questions you can ask them when they come to your front yard or when they begin work. The one that I thought about for a week now is the door hangers. There's no way to control that. If my grandkids come in and grab stuff, it's gone. And I won't know what's happening.
The dog ate it, yeah.
And that's a tough one for us, but I think just letting residents know that we are aware of these things and we are responding to them, which we do, it's great. I went out and spoke to a resident in person, letting blow up on me, he's blown up on others there in the city. And I think that was part of his process, is just venting, but I'd like to be able to have it where he doesn't feel like he has to vent, and he knows what's going on and knows where to get the information on our website or, to a specific individual. And then we can have it mitigated to where we're not going through a whole bunch of stuff when this gentleman was way out there, but I think it was nice to have this extreme case to give an example of what it could be. We know how those people are pretty reasonable. But we just want to be able to get the information out there so people know what our codes are, what our processes are, so that we don't run into too many incidents and people have a landing place to go say, get a question answered on the website. Oh, this is what it is. And it's probably already there right now, but we know nobody's gonna go there.
Yeah.
But
I did a
we need
newsletter
that.
article in May. I did a newsletter article on this in May.
Yeah.
But you assume they read.
I'm not gonna go there.
I mean, maybe a newsletter article that updates of all the projects to your point.
Yeah, and I push out the projects, the street projects and things through Facebook and LinkedIn and all that, and still, there's only one or two people that respond, but then all of a sudden the phone starts blowing up. What are they doing here? And I'm like, yeah, I pay attention. Or which ones
I agree. I think we can do a better job in Public Works of at least listing the process and putting it there for people and a place to find it in like one location. I think that's a great idea. Listing each right-of-way permit though.
No, we
is-
won't wanna do that.
Projects themselves,
Yeah.
we are doing that now and we're updating, but listing the right-of-way permits, we issue, 10 or 15 or 20 of those in a week and tracking
I'm
and
with you.
detailing it.
That's not something, I don't think that's.
But we can do a better job of at least having a one stop where you can just go look at, this is the process that they should be following, and then we'll know.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So-
'Cause you get a blurb on Cottonwood Heights neighbors, what's going on Fort Union? And I'm like, read, it's public information, but we can't say that to people. So, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Great. Any other comments from the council? Okay, we will move on to item F, which is entitled a procedural meeting discussion. So I'm gonna pass out. all the-
Yeah. I do.
If you don't have a copy of the policies,
Is that an extra long time? Okay, man, you're saying, that's what I said, you leave it there.
My length is on my. Like it's a long time.
I will be taking.
so mostly I just wanted to reemphasize and go over a couple of things that I think are important to make sure that our meetings flow how they're supposed to. And mostly in these interactions, I want to concentrate on policy 9 and 10. And first off, before we even get to 9, well, item number 1 in policy number 9 is that it says the mayor is statutorily charged with setting the agenda for council meetings. I have never, so the way that a council member gets something on the agenda is they need 2 people, so themselves plus 1 other. To be honest with you, I've never had one person come to me and I haven't put it on the agenda. I haven't denied it one single time in almost 3 years. So if you have something that needs to be talked about, I'm happy to get it on the agenda. Anyway, and if I don't agree, then you can always try to get a second person. And like I said, I've never not agreed in allowing you to talk about something that is important to you. And then that's what item number 2 talks about. So as far as city council conduct, specifically in item number 10, so I brought this item up because, last week or our last meeting, I was kind of accused of not allowing somebody to speak to something. And I wanted to tell you what went into that decision. And first off, Shane, you can back me up if I say anything incorrect. But, if we are talking about things that are not noticed in our agenda, then we're really in violation of the Public Meetings Act. Is that a correct statement?
Well, you can talk, but you certainly can't take action. But I think even talking shouldn't become a habit because the point of public meetings is to give the public notice of what's going to be talked about and discussed and decided. And so if it's constantly going on to topics that aren't noticed up, I just don't think that's as transparent as we could be.
Right. So in policy number 10, there's a couple of things that I wanted to point you to. So it's not, I'm not perfect, but in trying to conduct a meeting, this is what it says: honor the role of the mayor or chair in maintaining order. It's the responsibility of the mayor chair to try and keep the comments of members on track during public meetings. On track to me means, on the discussion that's noticed and the agenda item that we've put there. Says members should honor efforts by the mayor or chair to focus discussion on current agenda items, which is what I was specifically saying. If there's a disagreement about the agenda or the mayor's or chair's actions, those objections should be voiced politely and with reason, normal parliamentary procedure when appropriate. So I wanted to bring this up as a discussion item. If there's anything you want to add, disagree with, change, to change our policy, you need two people to bring it up for discussion and then a majority to actually make a change to it. So I thought I'd bring that up for you all to talk about.
I'll just state that it is a responsibility of the mayor to make sure we're conducting business in the proper manner and to see my most politically way to phrase this, to steer pause when we are getting off track on issues and topics. And that can be immediate, that can be done slowly through dialogue, but that is your responsibility, and you can't feel bad about stopping this direction. It's just part of your role.
Since I think the mayor is referring to my objection when I was making a comment at our last meeting, I think I need to go on record to say that I felt that my comment was very germane to this discussion. I see our council responsibility is not to necessarily, listen to presentations and then all nod our heads. The very fact that there's 5 representatives at this table, we should be interested in the perspective that comes, a council member who is looking out into the future at potentially unintended consequences of a given action. I understand that when things come in front of the council, we are there to advise and consent. In the case of the agenda item in the last meeting, which was about spending a considerable amount of money to have a evaluation or survey taken about a traffic study. I thought that my question was germane to the subject of why are we having this study done, and what are we trying to understand that it can bring to our ability to deliberate on how to create, according to our overlay zone, for an area to be developed from the new town center to the west. And so while I got it that the mayor disagreed and didn't think that it was germane, I believe my interpretation would be, if as the chair, you ask the members of the council, is anyone in, do I feel that this is not germane? I want to keep us on the time, so I'm asking Councilmember Burrell to curtail her comments. And if you have the support of at least 2 other members, I can accept that. There's a council majority. I think they need to come forward and say, I, Councilmember Newell and Councilmember Highland, agree with the mayor. Councilmember Burrell, your comments are not germane to the subject. That's fine. Then the public knows Ellen Burrell is not, her interest, her comment is not esteemed by her colleagues, and it's clear, and we move on to the next thing. What I believe is not stated here, but is sometimes happens, is when council members talk privately and realize they have a majority, things are advanced at this table or not advanced. But I think that the public, because these are publicly cited meetings, the public has the right to know who the council members are who want to go in a certain direction. If I'm in the minority, I will acquiesce. I get it. But I think the public has a right to know. For me to have been curtailed in my comment, when we often go over, I keep track of how we try our best to have agenda items stay within their 10 or 20 or 15-minute allotment. But I've sat here and heard, wonderful touchy-feely stories and shared, and 3 minutes goes by in 5 minutes. So I can understand as chair, if I become too verbose or I am getting off topic. But to me, before we approved, why am I even coming to this meeting if I'm not considering and reading through what is coming out of our Public Works Department or other departments and offering, is this aligning with what I understand the macro picture is of what we're trying to accomplish? So
we don't need to talk about specifics of last week other than before the meeting, it was understood from the entire council that design, the things that you wanted to get into, I didn't think were on topic, and nobody objected to my statement to you in the email that, hey, I don't want to go down that road. Design of the road is, this is a traffic study to get traffic counts.
Well,
So I don't want to get into specifics, but you know, your thought, if I object to somebody getting off track, and if the council feels like I need a couple of other people to back me up on that, is that, then I'm okay with that, if that's how you feel. So is that okay? Is that how the council feels? If I object, we get two other people to say, yeah, that's off track, then we move on. Does that sound right?
Should you do it that way, or is it
Or is it more like
the
you say
opposite
that I would say?
of, hey, I
I would like
agree
to hear
with
more about what.
Councilmember Burrell
oh,
or
by
Newell.
people's silence, you are saying that they agree with you when they are silent.
No, that nobody objected to what I said, that I did. It was from the email.
And that's
Well,
probably,
if, you know, and well, perhaps that leads us to the paragraph under this same policy number 10, where as a matter of courtesy, council members and the mayor should respond to emails and voicemail messages within 24 to 48 hours. If a detailed response is not possible within 48 hours, the council member or the mayor should acknowledge the email or voicemail with a response indicating when they will be able to fully respond. And I will say now I'm finishing out my 3rd year serving in office. And I will say, I try to limit the emails that I send out to my council colleagues. And it is very rare, other than, I won't name names, but it's very rare that I get a response when I have sent out something very substantive, even if it's drop dead. I mean, I get no response whatsoever. So I am a big believer. There was a corporate giant 20 years ago who said luxurious communication is how corporations succeed. And I am suggesting that our council lean in a little bit more to more deeper communication so that we can make the most of these public meetings.
Yes.
I think that acknowledging receipt of an email message is great, but the thing I would like to caution against is an ensuing discussion about that item in an email format, because that can become an unnoticed meeting, which none of us want to have. Discussion should occur in the council meeting. So I think that acknowledgement, yeah, I got your email, thanks, or whatever, would be fine, but then going on and saying, but this is what I think about it, and have you thought about this? I think that's where it shouldn't go.
I
Because
thought it was related to actionable items. I'm not asking a member, are you going to vote up or down or taking action? But unless we communicate in any meaningful way, we get into our limited twice a month meetings and we haven't necessarily examined things. And I'm often reliant on the others on this council who have way more expertise than I do in certain areas. And so I'm not saying this is only me going this way. I would value.
so I want to add some thoughts there. And I do think there's no question that communication and relationships matter in a good functioning council. I do think that we all are at different stages of life. We all work differently. We all have different priorities. I think we've seen each other on the council really tackle some issues. And I think there's some successes in doing it that way. I do think it's unfair for any council member to, reach out and say, this is what I'm wanting everyone to discuss and talk about, because there are many instances where it then becomes a system of, hey, this is what I'm wanting us to focus on or talk about. and I'm expecting all of that discussion to come forth and people to dive in, when I think that's just kind of unfair. Because there are only so many issues that all of us can really tackle just with limited time. Now, obviously, if it's relevant to something that's coming up this next council meeting, that's a little different. But I think part of it also is we've got to meet each other halfway in the way that we all work. And that's just how people work. And that's just how you're going to function appropriately. That just know that by me not responding, I mean, no disrespect if it's on a specific email, it just might be, hey, that's not an issue that I can tackle right now and kind of dive into. I know that maybe a couple of you are focusing on it and you're putting in the work on it, and I look forward to seeing what comes out of that. Or there may be things where, I don't agree with the path
Well,
we're
I
going
just don't
down.
understand. I didn't dream this up. I just don't understand why that's a paragraph.
You're
if it's not.
soliciting responses, would it be better to email individuals separate emails?
I think that would be better than emailing the whole council. Yeah.
Okay, cause, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, whether I
the Open
emailed
Public Meetings
individually or
Act
not, I
was
don't think that's.
was just amended to prohibit situations where a group of council members get together outside of a meeting and decide on the pathway that's going
Well,
to.
that's not what I'm
going to go
talking about.
forward.
You're changing what
Right.
I'm quoting a
Okay.
paragraph in the policy. I'm not talking about getting together and forming
specific?
quorums
I'm
to
just-
solve problems. I've never said that.
Is it the 24-hour thing? Is that?
It's this right here.
It is difficult for any citizen who's listening in. This has been the biggest challenge coming into becoming a city council member, is that I can't talk to more than, one of you at a time. And so then I say, talk to you, and then I talk to you, well, we discuss this, and then I call you, and well, we discuss this, and so that channel of telephone communication or email communication can get kind of muddy. So I appreciate that we're talking about this, about how we can even just discuss things and come here when we only have 3 minutes after a presentation to discuss. It's hardly enough time. We're under that constraint, so just hope that we can find some ways to work together better in the interest of our citizens.
So I appreciate that, Suzanne, as well. Sorry, Councilmember Highland, sorry. But I was talking to what our city attorney is telling us. And so I don't want to, and maybe we need to wait for some clarification, but I feel like, when we're discussing the public good for Cottonwood Heights together in email, it's a way to bypass being transparent. And so, we can do that legally, individually. And so, I think, I don't know, Shane, what do you think? Is there
I think that what that paragraph means is that if somebody sends out an email that they put work into and sends it out to the group or to a person, well, then it's respectful to say, yeah, thank you, received that. I'd be in favor of putting that on for discussion before the council.
That's
but
all.
not discussing in the email?
That's not
actual
what,
item?
yeah, that's
Okay.
what I'm saying. I'm not
Okay.
accusing Councilmember Burrell of doing anything. I'm trying to provide general advice of how we stay in the guardrails of open public meetings requirements.
Yeah, that's what I'm really talking about. I'm not talking about these big dissertations. I mean, for goodness sakes, none of us have the time and energy to do that. But I do think that when someone has prepared something and it's a courtesy. Yes, that actually intrigues me. I would support that appearing in a work session, or boy, 2 years from now, I mean, I will say that sometimes Councilman Newell has said, Ellen, I don't think, or, it's not appropriate at this moment, or, so those are the kind of courtesies that I think will help us to be able to efficiently look out for the best interests of our citizenry. Yeah.
So if I bring up hey, we're off topic, unless I get two other individuals to say, no, we'd like to continue this discussion.
Yeah, I think that probably makes the most sense.
That makes sense.
I appreciate that. Thank you for that specificity.
Can I ask for a clarification going back to getting it on the agenda? Would you prefer if a council member wants something on the agenda, they send you an email and you approve, or? Because right now people are approaching me separately saying, hey, can we talk about this? And I'm okay putting it on there than talking to you about it.
Yeah, no,
might
it
be
needs
better
to
have
include me.
So it might be nice if you have something you want to go on the agenda, send it to me or copy me, and then when.
And if I ever disagreed, they would just need to include a second person.
Well, should we ever consider that Granicus or some other kind of program? I know that other cities make this a transparent project,
Right.
process. I know in Murray and other cities, they, I can literally see, oh, Councilmember Highland is looking to put something on the agenda. Oh, well, I didn't, gee, I have constituents who are also concerned. The more transparent we can make this, the more efficient I believe it would be for all of us. So,
So I might listen
Yeah.
to budget discussions.
great.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that discussion. So the last item under staff report is a financial update, and I am thrilled to have Scott, our finance director, administrative and financial services director, give this update, because I think you'll all realize why very soon. So, and it's probably in our values, but anyway, Scott.
Okay, so, really quick, let me give kind of a quick overview on what happens. So we have a pretty fiscal year that starts on July 1 and ends on June 30th. And we have a tax year that in essence starts on January 1 and ends on December 31st. So we have these weird overlappings of things. So on January 1st or thereafter, from January 1st until June 30th, we have transactions that occur, such as personal property tax returns that are due quarterly, and other things. And there are certain property transactions that occur that require some payment, excuse me, on the property tax that is associated with the property in question, and so on and so forth. So from the period of January 1 until June 30th, we get revenue in that applies to the next fiscal year. Because like, for instance, in 2024, the taxes that we predominantly collect during October, November, and December can also potentially be collected in the first part of the year from January 1 until June 30th. During that period, we accrue them into a balance sheet account to hold them, if you will, there until we get to July 1st, and then we do the entry to recognize those revenues and so on and so forth. Because we also get delinquent taxes from prior years that we can recognize immediately, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of a variety of different revenues that we are received during really any time, but the real time that we need to scrutinize is from January 1 until July 31st, or till June 30th, sorry. Excuse me. Typically, when July 1 happens, we just go ahead and recognize those revenues immediately. However, in a year like 2023, where we were putting into place the purchase of the property at Hillside, and then we also were in the process of doing a few other things related to the budget and everything. We get busy and sometimes we forget to do these kinds of things. And that was not caught, that we hadn't recognized the revenues related to that until we were doing our audit. And that's the reason why we do an audit, so we can go, oh, hey, we have this here. Why is it here? It should be in there, so on and so forth. So anyhow, a long story short, as we move forward, this is the data that we had given before showed that we had $2,862 of revenue above and beyond what we had shown, or what we had in our budget. However, these two line items that are highlighted yellow, we had additional revenue of $285,000. You remember we were $293,000 short before on that, on our property taxes. So now we're only $7,533 short, which is in the acceptable range from my perspective of where we need to be. And then on the fee in lieu of, we recognized another $134,000 of revenue. So that brings us to the point where we're at $422,000 above what we had budgeted. And it's about in line with our projection. Our projection was $25,709,000. We actually received $25,872,000. So in a sense, sorry, we didn't recognize that we hadn't, recognized that at the time. Our auditors happened to be there the week right after our last meeting, and we recognized that through that process that we had omitted that. So we quickly recognized that and and booked it through.
I told Scott he could call me every day and say, hey, I found $400,000.
Yeah. That's not gonna happen a lot, so.
There can be mistakes,
But it
exactly.
did happen. I'm sorry that it occurred, and we will try and, make sure that that doesn't occur, in the
I mean, is this
future.
a psychological trick, like telling the words?
100%.
We had been looking for it and we had not stumbled across it yet, and we were like, I don't know where we're gonna, find that and so on and so forth. We weren't so worried because typically this stuff will show up, like I told you, like even the $7,500 short. Somebody didn't pay and we'll get that eventually. So, I'm not overly concerned about it, but it was a good thing.
Yes.
And then I have one more item that I wanted to go over because sales taxes didn't change and it's so on and so forth. However, we had good news for our July numbers that we just received last week. And that is that we received $721,000. Our prior high for July was the year before, which was $671,000. So that's nearly a $50,000 increase year over year, or a 7.44% increase. Now, don't plan on every single month being like this. They kind of yo-yo around a little bit as we go through, but that's a good start to the year. And it's the high for July. And we'll watch this, we'll continue to watch it, but just kind of a quick note, if we were to be $50,000 over for every month, we would actually hit our $9.7 million budgeted sales tax number. So we'll have to watch and see what happens as we go through the year, but I think it's a positive note and we'll see kind of how things reflect as we move forward.
Yeah. Coming after, in 4 of the previous 6 months, we'd collected less than we had year over year from the previous year. So to have, 7.5% growth in this month, I wanted him to include that. So that's a really, really good number. So I've been really concerned about sales tax numbers. And so the fact that we got this number is really positive. Good start to the year.
Yes.
So awesome.
Any questions?
No, thanks, Scott. Well, sorry, I assumed any other questions?
Yay.
None from me. Okay.
I stand with Scott. Is that what we have to put through now?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Scott.
Yep.
So quick review of calendars and upcoming events. So the Arts Council Halloween will be held October 1st to the 31st. So that starts today. This is an online social media pen and ink daily drawing tutorial. So that is now started. My town hall for the general obligation bond, the Heights, will be on Tuesday, October 8th, a week from today, from 6 to 8 p.m. in the Colmar room. Councilmember Brill will also have one on October 10th, and hers is from 6:30 until 8 p.m. in the Colmar room. The Monster Mash, Friday, October 25th, from 5 to 7, and that's at the Rec Center. November elections, early voting is October 29th through November 1st, from 2 until 7, and that's here at City Hall. Election Day, November 5th, and that's the entire day, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can come here to City Hall to vote. City Council meetings for November will be held on Tuesday, November 12th and 19th. So there will not be any meetings on the 5th due to the election. And we'll make sure that our social media is all over that. Light the Heights will be on December 2nd from 5 until 7:30 at the City Hall Colmar room. And the Arts Council Holiday Show, Friday, December 6th at Butler Middle School. This is the first time we've done this show, but we're excited. And that will be from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Okay, so we do have an item to discuss in a closed meeting concerning property acquisition. And so at this point, I would entertain a motion to
Something before we close this meeting. Just one quick note.
yes.
Bella Vista Elementary was awarded the National Blue Ribbon School. And there was only 3 schools here in Utah that gained that recognition.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a pretty big deal for Canyon School.
What does it mean?
It's based on this is just a little bit that I could gather. It's based on the academic outcomes from the school. And for an elementary school, those measurements are something that they really take a look at as far as school districts go. But this is a national honor for Bella Vista.
Wow, one of 3 in the state. That
Yeah,
is
one of 3
awesome.
in the state. So
That is awesome.
Oh, thanks for sharing that.
So I'll entertain a motion for to leave our work session and enter into a closed meeting.
So motion.
Have you messed with
For the
the?
purpose-
I'll second.
For the purpose
For the
of
purpose of property
property
acquisition.
acquisition.
I'll second.
A motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.